Talmor, Shishin Magachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters.
Fighting a couple of angels, too.
And eventually save the world.
A bunch of times. Over 15 years, this series has built one of the most dedicated fan bases in all of entertainment, and that fan base is near and dear to our hearts.
That's right. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
And you do a darn good job, too, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I'm Richard Spade Jr. I played Loki, the Trickster, and Gabriel, and I directed a bunch of episodes.
Wow, is that it?
Well, I directed you. I don't know. What do you think?
Though we worked on the show for years, we never sat down and watched the entire series.
But that was then, and this is now.
That's right. We are watching each episode and inviting the actors, the writers, producers, and crew to join us in digging into the story, the characters, and the mythology.
These guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us. You're going to love those, and you're going to get our honest opinion about each and every episode. That's right. Those guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us, and each episode gets a full, honest, and unfettered review from Rob and Rich. And you get to learn a little bit about how TV is made. Lord knows we have.
A warning, there are spoilers. And don't get frustrated that we haven't caught details for multiple viewings or that we know what happens 3 seasons from now. This is the first time we're watching these episodes. And you're there for the ride as we watch with our virgin eyes.
Oh, that's creepy. Thanks for joining us on our journey as we deepen our understanding about why you love this series so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Benedict.
And I'm Richard Spade Jr.
And we are talking about Season 5, Episode 14, My Bloody Valentine.
We're darn right we are.
Hey, before we get into the summary of this one, please consider supporting the show on Patreon.
Rob, why would I do that? I'm the co-host. I get to hear all the material whenever I want to.
Yeah, but this you'd actually have to show up for.
Oh, well, never mind that. I'm out.
Last week, we live streamed the review of Swap Meet. It was fun having fans there and watching Steve struggle with live stream technology.
Come for the supernatural, sure, but stay for the laughs as we muck up the technology that is required to pull one of those things off.
That's right. You could be one of the lucky ones. All right, let's get into My Bloody Valentine, Richard.
No, let's talk about the show.
So it's Valentine's Day, and a couple on their first date are so enamored with each other that they eat each other.
What a leap to the gross part. How about the romance and the flirting? It was so delightful. I fell for them. I'm like, here's a young couple that's just going to go on to a happy and healthy life. It's going to have nothing to do with the plot. They clearly are smitten. She was delightful. And by the way, has not had an easy road in the dating scene. Her last boyfriend was a nightmare. This guy, he grew up kind of dorky, a little bit on the shyer side. But you know what? Now he's a grown man. He's got all the personality, wit, and charm you need. He just lacks confidence. Finally, he meets a girl who sees the real him. And he sees that sparkle in his eyes. And he knows he has something special, Robert. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He knows. He's not dumb. He could have walked away without that kiss, but he knows he just can't because these moments don't come along all the time.
Right.
And she is so relieved because she's shy. She's not going to initiate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's all the time we have, everybody.
But it's a beautiful moment.
Yeah. And she bites his neck, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a vampire episode. But then he bites back, and whoa, is he a vampire? And then they just start eating each other.
Right. Which is kind of hot until they die.
Yeah.
You know?
Dean is oddly more interested in solving this case than unattached Drifter Christmas, which I thought
My
was
favorite
really funny.
line in the entire episode.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Unattached Drifter Christmas.
It made me laugh.
Yeah.
Genuinely laugh.
Yeah.
He calls Valentine's Day unattached drifter
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, the many years I was an unattached drifter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Soon another double suicide occurs with an awkward thing in an office where that guy gets shot in the chair. That was kind of odd.
Yeah, she comes in and she's all good looking and upset.
Okay. I see what you're getting at.
What?
Yeah, we like the good looking ladies, but there were men in those scenes too. The guy gets shot in the chair and he falls back and his legs are up and then one like flops off. It's kind of funny.
Leg goes flop. Yeah.
Sam and Dean head back to the morgue and discover Enochian symbols on the hearts of the victims.
Right.
Castiel appears and explains that the symbols mean they were struck with the arrow of a cupid, a lower-level angel cherub third class.
Did you find it was interesting that it was a cupid? Like I always thought cupid was the name. You know what I mean? They treated it like it's like you said, a classification.
Right.
But I had thought of cupid as being an individual.
As, like with a capital C.
Right.
But it's a lowercase cupid. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you mention it, yes, I am surprised.
Because that song, Cupid, pull back your bow. The lyrics aren't, hey, any given Cupid.
Any given Cupid, one of you should
yeah.
back your bow.
If you're not too busy shooting other people with your bow, please aim your bow over here.
Find me a Cupid to pull back his bow. Yeah. Or her
Who
bow.
do I have to F to get a Cupid over here?
My kingdom for a Cupid. He believes the cherub might have gone rogue. We're talking about Castiel. He thinks the cherub might have gone rogue. So Castiel uses his angel powers to summon the cherub. The brothers are surprised by the appearance of the cherub as a large, naked man.
Very funny actor Lex played that role really, really well.
Very, very funny. The cherub proceeds to give everyone big hugs, big naked hugs.
Big hug.
Castiel confronts him, but the cherub claims innocence. He's only been making people desire each other, not murder each other.
Right. What gives Sam and Dean?
In fact, he cries, and he's following orders from heaven, matching people up. It's important that certain people end up together, like John and Mary. And Dean gets upset, like, keep my parents' names out your mouth.
Yeah.
And he punches the cherub, and it leaves. He hurts its feelings. No more cherub. No more Lex.
And weirdly, later that night, Dean won Best Actor.
That's right.
And received an Oscar.
Later, the coroner calls with a man who ate himself to death with Twinkies. While investigating, Sam confronts a demon.
That's really gross, by the way, the gorging on Twinkies.
I mean, this whole episode, I watched this morning before breakfast. Big mistake. Ugh.
I bet you couldn't finish your ding dong.
I couldn't finish my. Listen, you can't call ahead to something we haven't said yet.
Okay, I'll say something else. I bet you couldn't finish your eclair.
You know, another funny thing in this episode is when Castiel, they say, oh, big guy with diapers. And Castiel says he's not incontinent.
Right.
I thought that was really funny.
That was funny.
So, okay. Later, the coroner calls with a man who ate himself to death with Twinkies. While investigating, Sam confronts a demon. Sam gets his hands on the demon's briefcase. When he opens it, they are blinded by a bright light. Castiel tells him that is a soul in the case, and this could only mean that famine, the third horseman of the apocalypse, is in town. That's why people are insatiable for sex, food, and other desires. It's causing Sam to crave demon blood and Castiel's vessel to crave red meat. Strangely, Dean isn't craving anything.
That is strange.
Sam voluntarily gets handcuffed to the bathroom sink while Castiel and Dean head out to confront famine. They find the coroner dead from drinking himself to death and use the opportunity to do a stakeout from the Impala, waiting for demons to arrive to harvest the coroner's soul.
You know, I gotta be honest, it kind of sounds like you're down on the corner, out in the street. Willie and the poor boys are playing nickels at your feet, down on the corner, out in the street.
Harvesting the corner. Meanwhile, Sam is visited by two demons. He defeats them and drinks demon's blood.
Nice.
Dean and Castiel have tracked famine to an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Castiel loses control for red meat. He's eating it raw now. He's completely out of control. Famine tells Dean he's black inside, and that's why he desires nothing.
That's weird.
It is weird.
That's what I say to you.
Shocker to me. That was a shocker to me. Soon Sam arrives. He's all hopped up on the demon blood, and Famine wants Sam to drink all their blood, but Sam is able to control himself.
It's a funny thing about drinking demon blood. I've figured it out after watching many, many episodes of Supernatural.
Oh, boy.
Whenever, maybe it's unique to Sam Winchester, but whenever Sam Winchester consumes demon blood, he doesn't wipe his mouth.
Yeah. It makes
Literally, he always has blood all over his face.
Yeah.
Like a kid with a chocolate cake. And he wants to go, bro, here's a napkin.
He wants you to know. He wants you to know. He wants to get caught.
No kidding.
Famine tells Dean he's black inside. That's why he deserves nothing. Soon Sam arrives. Okay, so Sam sucks out the souls of all the demons that are around, and then Famine consumes the demons instead after Sam says no. He's controlling himself. So Famine just consumes them all. So Sam can't use his powers against the horsemen, so he uses this as an opportunity to exorcise the demons from Salmon's stomach, weakening and destroying him. The brothers acquire Famine's ring. They take it to Bobby's, where Sam gets locked up to detox.
Here's a little Hollywood trivia for you.
Yeah?
Do you know what the celebrity couple name is if Sam Winchester dated Famine?
Salmon. Dean goes outside, pleads to heaven for help.
I mean, that's adorable, right?
It's adorable.
Uh-oh, there's salmon out on the town.
That's right.
You mean the fish swimming upstream? No, Sam Winchester and Famine. They're an item.
Salmon. Dean goes outside, pleads to heaven for help, but he doesn't get an answer, and he cries in despair.
Don't you also think that when you look at the word famine, now that we're reading it on this synopsis, it actually looks like a French supermodel's name?
Famine. Yeah.
It doesn't look nearly as threatening when you see it written down.
No, famine. I wrote notes for this episode.
Rob's dumb notes. Get ready, buddy. Rob's dumb notes. Get ready to ignore them. Rob's dumb notes. Rob's notes.
When they're in the morgue and they're going over the hearts and finding out they're not wearing masks or anything. That would smell pretty bad.
Yeah, dude.
Come on.
It would smell terrible. It's also unsanitary.
Okay, here's another question.
But also, Sam doesn't wipe his mouth when he drinks demon blood, so I guess he doesn't give a rat's a.
He's dirty. Here's another question. For Famine, it's an old guy.
Famine?
He needs oxygen to breathe. He's got the oxygen thing in his nose.
Right.
To kill him, why don't you just pull that thing out?
I think that's like an oxygen treatment, giving him cleaner air. But I don't know if that would actually kill him.
So you're saying his lungs are in great shape. He's just worried about the pollution in the air here on Earth?
Maybe he's a hippie.
Okay.
I mean, he definitely has sort of the unkempt appearance of a hippie. You know what I mean?
What, you think that's not air? That's something else? Maybe it's weed?
No, I think it's air, but I think it's like he's got the big bucks he can afford. Like when you go to an air bar and get the really fancy air.
Okay.
You know, you go to air bars.
Sure,
that
that
makes
makes...
calling me and
you know what?
I'm at the air bar, Rich.
Thank you. Now it makes sense. And here's another thing. Is this happening in all the cities? Or is this just this little town?
Oh, I think it's just where he is.
Just where who is?
Famine.
So Famine's just making his way through Earth, starting here.
That's my take, is it's just where Famine is. Because otherwise, everybody on Earth would be gorging themselves. Like when he goes into the diner, they start gorging themselves. Like his presence creates...
Right. But like the idea is that the four horsemen of the apocalypse are coming, and then we're all wiped out and it's the apocalypse, right?
Right.
And we're just starting in this little town.
Yeah.
And then from here...
That's my take.
Okay.
That's my take.
Also, it's where Sam and Dean are, and obviously they're popular in heaven and hell. Right. So speaking of that, my last question is Dean dead?
What?
The reason he's not feeling anything is because he's dead inside. He's empty inside. Because he's been dead.
Yeah, his soul is damaged, or it's not there at all, or
right.
Yeah, he's dead inside.
All right,
cold and dead inside.
All right.
What the hell's wrong with you and your stupid notes? Like, didn't you have anything else to do? You're scribbling all these dumb notes that are annoying everybody.
I disagree. I don't think anybody's annoyed. You're annoyed, but that's because you're annoying.
Good point. It's kind of my bit.
So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think Dean is dead. I think that there's obviously damage from his experience, but why he's not wanting anything, I don't know. Like why he's not wanting to go out and hook up with the ladies or get his drink on. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out coming down the road. What?
He's empty inside. That's what they said there. He's empty.
I know, but why specifically? Because one episode ago, he would have had the same insides, but he was eating a burger. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
why suddenly now? I don't know.
Right. Huh. All right. Well, it's time for...
Rob and Rich ratings. One thing I want to talk about is I thoroughly enjoyed the Cupid scene. I thoroughly enjoyed Lex as Cupid, and I thought the boys' reactions were great, and Misha's reactions were great. It was just really well done. I'm getting that in there. I also thought the guy who played Famine was fantastic. Super creepy.
Yeah.
Hungry. All that stuff was great.
Yeah.
I thought the episode was a little disjointed. A little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just saying, man, it was great. but I don't know. What did you think? I mean, before we give it the beard rating, what did you actually think of the episode?
I agreed. It felt a little disjointed. Like it's one of those episodes where there was so much going on. You know, you kind of thought the episode was going to be a kind of cut and dry about Cupid, and then that's kind of a misdirect. It's not about him at all. And there seemed to be just a lot sort of going on. It still didn't totally explain, like, you know, from the beginning, they're like, what's going on with you, Dean? Like, why, like, suddenly Dean's not hungry at all. Like, Dean.
Well, that's why I think that must be a seed for a bigger arc.
Maybe,
yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot going on. It was also just very gross. It's not my, you know, personally, just my personal taste. I don't love body horror. That's just like not something that I love.
And nothing for nothing, but I was kind of hoping Cupid would come back in the episode. I was kind of bummed that was a one and done.
Right. Agreed.
You know, I kind of get tired of demons coming up to Sam Winchester and saying, "Oh, we know you. You've got this thing going on inside." Like, I feel like they really hammer home the whole Sam's got demon blood in him bit.
Well, so Lucifer, ultimately, they think Lucifer's going to embody Sam.
Inhabit Sam. Yeah, exactly.
And then by the same token, are they thinking, and heaven is counting on Dean?
To be Michael, correct.
So they're almost like pitting the two of those together with those.
They are pitting them apart. That's the whole point. They're supposed to fight.
I just got that.
Apocalypse.
I just got that.
It's supposed to be a big apocalyptic battle with those two dudes at the helm of each army.
At the same token, I think that, you know, Ben is such a good writer. There's some delicious scenes in there, and he does a great job. I love when writers introduce something and then that piece will come back and sort of solve the puzzle. Like, you know, how Sam at the end defeats the horseman by exorcising the demons that are that he's got in his belly or whatever, you know, that kind of thing.
100%. So I agree with you that I enjoyed that was great. Didn't see that coming. Mm-hmm. Again, the Cupid scene. Again, the line you talked about, the drifters, you know, bit. There's a great dialogue. Yeah. The incontinent bit. There's like, it's a thoroughly enjoyable episode. The charm of the two opening characters in the teaser. Like, it's a really well done episode.
Yeah.
And The Office. You know, the heartbroken woman coming in there.
Yeah, they were all good. Everybody's good.
It was a great scene. I guess the thing that was tricky is it vacillated. The A and B stories, or however you want to break them apart, were so tonally different that it made it hard for them to fit together.
Right.
Like, the heartbroken girlfriend coming in was 100% comedy. Like, you pointed out the legs of the guy, and the one leg falls over. Like, it was all comedy. And meanwhile, Sam's getting handcuffed to a sink because they're P-trap, because he's really worried about demons and the horsemen. Like, it was so, I don't know, it just seemed tonally inconsistent.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
And with that, I've got to give it a beard rating of some sort.
Yeah.
And I got to think about that. Do you have one?
Well, my beard rating, because the biggest thing that stuck for me in this episode is just a personal taste thing. Like, I just don't love honestly, like, made me a bit nauseous. So, you know, I'm trying to think of like an unattractive beard.
Right.
And maybe Tom Hanks in Castaway, when he has to grow, he's trapped on an island for 3 years, and so he grows a real nasty, you know, ratty beard.
Okay. All right. You've given me the idea then. I know where I'm gonna go with this.
Let's hear it.
Jack Black's current beard. Because it's gray and it's black. I mean, it's full, but it looks more like a homeless sea captain than an actual actor.
It does look like a homeless sea captain.
So I'm gonna go Jack Black's. It's full. There's a lot to enjoy. It's definitely a beard. It's substantial. You take it all in and go, well, that's a beard. But you kind of go away going, could have been trimmed up, could have been made neater, could have been
colored, one
color.
color.
Have been maybe conditioned a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or colored the same color. Is a homeless sea captain just live on land?
Ooh, good question.
All right, we'll have to answer that next time.
And here's the other question. Are they always dreaming of a dinghy? Here's another question. Are you currently dreaming of a dinghy?
It's all right. So we've got Jack Black, sea captain, homeless sea captain, wayward sea captain,
and who was yours?
Tom Hanks from Castaway, on an island with an island scraggly beard.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Just because it's kind of gross beard.
Also, he would have his kingdom for a dinghy. You know what I mean? That's the same thing for Tom.
Can we do one episode where you don't talk about dinghies? Every episode.
We can do an episode where I don't talk about boats, but I won't agree to the dinghy clause.
All right. Well, we have two interviews today. You're very lucky as a listener. Two.
Yeah, you better appreciate this. We really went to bat for you this time, and so I don't want any like angry text going, "What have you done for me lately?" I want like a lot of appreciation coming our way for this lineup. Robert.
All right. First up, we've got the writer of this episode, recurring guest on our show, the one and only Ben Edlund, and here's our conversation with Ben. Okay, Ben, so prior to Supernatural and even your Supernatural episodes, you've been known for your wit and your comedy. This episode has some really super serious parts. There's some wit here, but there's also some super serious parts with Sam's struggles, the intensity of famine. I suppose there's a question here, and the question is, were you aware of that? Or do you consciously as a writer go like, this is going to be, I need to make this really serious because this is a heavy bit? You know what I mean? Or, how do you know when to put the wit in and when to go straight
Yeah,
down?
and if I can sort of tag onto that, Rob, I feel like because we were talking about before we logged on here, that there's a balance here. At one point, you think this episode is going to be a comedic one, and then it takes a sharp turn, and it's not. So it's got
Right.
It's striking both chords, but how do you, as the architect of the episode, find that balance?
Yeah. So Supernatural to me is like a perfect vessel for that kind of expression,
Right.
which is the comedy horror hybrid. And it's like, I mean, that was a constant conversation in the writer's room and everywhere in terms of tone, because we really wanted to be able to grab out for both. Like for me, like I harken back to the first time I saw American Werewolf in London.
Masterpiece. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Right? For me, when there's if I'm not mistaken, there is the horrific body horror of turning into a werewolf while they played Blue Moon.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
that incongruity between the soundtrack and the image, to me, is exactly what you want to get. Right? Like you just
Right.
want this, and it's happened before. We talked about it before in like the end. Do you love me now that I can dance? Juxtaposed with just mowing down former
Yeah.
humans,
Right,
like who are dancing herky jerky in a bullet spray.
Yes.
Is another moment. Like for me, there's two really disturbing openings, if I'm remembering correctly, that I had a part in. This one where the couple eats each other.
Yeah.
It's just disturbing.
Yeah.
And then I kind of had too much fun with like a Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah.
They were still chewing, but they were dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their stomachs were full, like
They're
Thanksgiving.
full. Does he like the one who likes the cream cake so much?
So creepy.
There's that balance of tone that, and just out of finishing a sentence, the other one to me that's really disturbing is when in Malleus Maleficarum, the woman spits up all her teeth and then dies. Because she seemed like a very nice lady. She seemed like a perfectly reasonable person.
Yeah, until that happened.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so tone-wise, that is a target for me. Where you're like, the ideal is, wow, I laughed as much as I maybe could imagine laughing in a show like this, and I was gripped by the stakes.
Right.
As much as a show with these kind of impossible stakes, how much they can grind into like continental impact, that if that could happen in one episode. So yeah.
That's the balance. But that's the balance. I mean, that's a great image to go back to. Is just, what you're watching is horrifying, and then what you're hearing is sort of light, and and that's the balance that you're making in Supernatural.
Which is why Cupid is so awesome.
So
just a big friendly naked guy.
Yeah, and that
in
was
the middle
almost
of
that was a bit of a misdirect, wasn't it? In story and tone. It was we're like, oh, okay, this is gonna be one of those where we follow this jolly guy,
Yeah. I mean, it was a Valentine's Day episode.
I wondered
So,
that.
like, it was wanting to kind of draw people into the idea of, it's going to be a romance-oriented episode, but in fact, it is like a song of the incel. It is, it is about not having on Valentine's Day and needing, wanting, being hungry for.
I thought it was interesting that, to your point, Rob, about the misdirect, is that you really think, because we've now established in the show that angels are jerks, or can be, and and cold and can do manipulative things, that the fact that we're about to see Cupid, we let go of the idea that it's going to be the Cupid we expect, and we expect this sort of darker version. So it actually, the weird thing is, the surprise is there's no surprise, if you get what I'm saying. The surprise is Cupid comes out as a jolly, Rubenesque, smiling guy, which is what you would have expected if it weren't Supernatural.
Yeah, he's exactly,
Long ago, I think he probably proved the whole dress for the job you want.
Yeah.
But I like that interaction between Castiel and Cupid. It's their handshake. Nobody likes it. It is really like two totally different divisions who don't really see eye to eye. like the serious gun wielding enforcers don't have time for this sort of soft, mushy, interpersonal stuff.
I did that shorthand though, when he's like, "Oh," and he even calls him brother. It's like, "Brother, read my mind. Read my mind. You can do this. You can solve this problem." It was really cool because there's a knowledge of each other's skill set. That's just intrinsic to who they are.
I love that. I mean, I think Supernatural at its best sort of has a very powerful chassis of like exposition that you can fall back on and build on and really do that kind of world building. I agree with you.
The glowing soul in the briefcase. Remember,
Yes.
you open the briefcase and then the huge light comes out. Was there a Pulp Fiction reference there, or?
I think inevitably.
Right.
But because it was not really a long-term MacGuffin, sure, it was like light coming out of a briefcase. And that was another situation where, it was built on the story we had been telling, but it was kind of like, you can keep a soul in a briefcase.
Yeah, there's that.
And release it. All of these things that sort of imply, probably magical on the lines of a curse box, but using different kinds of things to kind of. But anyway, all of that stuff feels like it fits in, but it's sort of a salute to the world.
That's an interesting point. Like, as a writer on the show in season 5, when you come up with this idea that like you can carry a soul around in a briefcase, that could be eaten by one of the horsemen, do you go, "Hey Eric, I'm thinking you keep a soul in a briefcase, and this can be a thing." Does that work in our world? You know what I mean? When you come up with kind of a new idea, you're like, is this going to fit in our Bible? You know what I mean?
Right. I think always, very similar to the constant. Testing of tone, where you're going, are we allowed to have this with this, or have we somehow jumped a shark we didn't realize?
Right.
Yeah. So in that case, though, so it's harder to just come out and be like, I think that we should have a teddy bear that wants to kill itself.
Right.
Because that solves no problem. That's like, like, hey, this would be crazy, wouldn't it? And everyone agrees that would be crazy. But in this case, and that's a question of, does that exist in this show? Here it has the advantage of being, hey, remember that problem we have? Here's a solution. There's a soul in a briefcase. They're able to take it, find out this piece of information we need them to have. And you go, oh, irresistible, because already late.
Right.
I mean, if it carries a solution, then it is I think audited at a much more, in each one of those cases, I remember being obsessed early on with, I just kept pushing and really probably annoying, but for the opposite of holy water, that there should be holy fire, right? And that became the angel trap. Ultimately, it became holy oil that ignites into holy fire. And that was a long discussion of like, it should be there. There's a hole in our world where this seems like it would fit. And then the use for it brought it into being, which I believe the first time was with Raphael. So it existed as a solution to no problem. And then when the problem came, suddenly I was really smart.
Well, and I think, too, like when a show runs for this long, you have to constantly keep expanding what you can do in this world, what you can do in the world of Supernatural.
Of course.
The story. That's fascinating. Okay, why Twinkies? Was there a...
why
Twinkies?
My personal lunch compliment for my entire education provided to me by my mother, who was not a food person and not a talented maker of food. Many other talents, extraordinary woman.
Obviously.
I'm super lucky to have her as a mom, but she would give me peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a Twinkie, like every day, for thousands of them. And so I have this weird, I am scared of and built out of Twinkies.
Yeah, you are. You are scared of and both embody.
I am Twinkies.
I am Twinkies.
I am fear of Twinkies.
That's hilarious.
I've got a little bit of ding dong in me.
Dude, I knew you were going to go for, just so you know, Rob, I knew you were going to go with ding dong. I literally saw you ask the question. I'm like, there's a ding dong bit that's coming, and I'm just going to sit back and wait for it to arrive.
Rich, you and I think, have talked about his big ding dong energy before.
We have. I kind of thought we decided we would not say that to him. I didn't want to get him cocky, but yeah. I know. No, Rob exudes ding dong. I mean, there's just nothing. If you see Robbie and don't think cream filling, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like you're not seeing the real Robbie.
The thing is, I'm not even joking. I love the ding dongs.
We know. And what's your favorite lunch dessert?
So the Twinkies, to me, had a personal thing. And the idea of dying by eating so many Twinkies and then also pushing them down your throat with some kind of
dude, that was so awful.
Object.
We're laughing about it, but the imagery they created for the character was horrific. The distended belly that he broke his band and then he kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real hard. I'm like, it's harder for me to do that these days as I mellow out. I can still do it, but then I mostly just don't. It's just horrific.
Well, you know what I think you hit. I think you hit on something that made it scary. I was going to say this when we talked about the opening. The thing that made the elements here that were intended to be creepy or gross, both, and excessively so or extremely so, is that they were regular people. They were never monsters in their own right. Like the opening couple, probably two of the most innocent characters ever to grace the screen of Supernatural, who then do two of the most horrific things to each other. But they're like a Midwest wholesome couple on a G. Willikers date, and it just goes pear-shaped. And then the guy who is obviously concerned about his health and has surgery, and then he dies stuffing Twinkies on himself. You know what I mean? Like, you have these ordinary people doing horrific things to themselves or to people they care about, which makes it even more gruesome. And they don't know they're doing something wrong. So they do it gleefully.
That I would say, actually, as you say all of this, as you speak, I think. Now,
yes, you do.
There's a Stephen King element in there of like needful things or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like something comes to town and normal people just get tweaked and horrible stuff happens. And if we had said it in Maine, like if we had pretended it was Castle Rock or something, it would fit into that genre of like how scary it can get when there's a bank shot, but like Paranormal Activity, because it took place in a condo kind of house, a modern house where the ice maker was scared, that it brought fear into like very, very close quarters by this level of familiarity. And I think that's the body count in this episode is like when they stop this and when they prevent more from happening, they're superheroes. They're in this case really like saving normal people from a supervillain that is attacking the town.
And that, you know, that point is new to me. Like I never knew that there was something. I knew that these were special characters. I didn't know, for instance, in this episode, that Dean would be immune from this because he's dead inside, you know,
right?
And that Sam has a real affliction with the demon's blood, and you know, and that makes him sort of superhuman. That he has these abilities. You know, they are superheroes.
Jared is so amazing.
He's great. And by the way, it's funny you say superhuman, Rob. It's almost like Jared is both superhuman and subhuman at the same time. It's an interesting character dichotomy that he plays really well.
Yeah.
I do think the guy who played Famine was great. He was so good.
Horseman Famine.
Oh, yeah. He was extraordinary. I think I quoted it before. When he says the one who likes cream cake so much, the joy and the anticipation of what he was going to enjoy, you get the sense, wow, he really enjoys, like we were saying, the horror of the stomach band being blown out. Right. He enjoys the taste of a toilet brush.
Yeah.
Like he gets all of that when he, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what he loves best is you died hungry and you couldn't fix it. So, and it's like, anyway, he was amazing. Just really good casting, I'd say. You know who I love? Who is, I'd say, the coroner who just.
Dude, he's so good.
Oh, he's great.
He is. I wish that he was like a coroner that actually was in some town that they had to keep visiting, and then he became like their coroner or something. Because
literally, I completely agreed with you. You were watching. First of all, Supernatural famously always has great guest cast from this one line to the big star of the week, but. He was an exceptionally great in that role because it is a smaller role, and he turned it into this whole character. Immediately, he had you felt like Wilford Brimley got brought in to play the coroner. You know, like this. He just was an A-level performer in that role.
He was really watching his town go crazy, and you could see it. Like when he had to tell about the toilet brush guy, he was like, "This is breaking my brain," you know. And it's And that was a real guy. That's how it felt.
Yeah. We've got another. And it sucks that we lost him, and now he's.
We're talking like he's a real person, man. It's a
No,
bummer.
I like
We lost Dave.
Doesn't pay to be guest cast on Supernatural in longevity terms.
Right.
No, it does not. I can speak from experience. Every time I thought I was coming back, I would just get killed again. Not like. They mess with your head.
Stop running that knife.
No kidding. Jeez.
All right, we have time for one last question for you. So during this season, was there a conversation or a plan about how all 4 horsemen would be introduced? We got pestilence, and death coming up.
Yeah, well, like, was there a master plan, or did it just come up as writers pitched ideas?
I mean, that plan, the 4 horsemen were part of the plan for a long time. So they were elements that were going to be unlocked by the machinations of the Yellow-Eyed Demon and Lilith and everybody, and then finally the emergence of Lucifer. All of that was part of a system. The rings and the way the rings operated moving into the finale, which I guess I should not spoil.
Yeah, don't spoil
but the mechanics of all of it, that was an ongoing developing thing. This fine-tuning. And so now we are at this point where we understand that we've acquired rings, right? We have War's Ray at this point.
Yes, we do.
Is that the case? Anyway, so yeah, all of these things, because I'm not sure, I don't want to advance anything too quickly, but like those mechanics are sort of like broad strokes. They were present, and then how they weave together to create the obstacles. Some of those were already laid out. Some of those Eric had in his brain from the beginning, and some of it was about, fine tuning as we like hit the road.
Yeah. Well, so far we're 2 in, and it's awesome. It's playing so well. It's so cool.
Oh yeah. Those mechanics, and also some of those things that it's sort of, I think, ultimately it worked out where like it was a blend of things that had history in the series, things like trying the cult and finding out the cult doesn't work, and the reemergence of the Croatoan virus. All of it's sort of like. Certainly the show goes on for another 10 years, but I think as it ends its sort of first book, the book of 5 years that was its first sort of venture, it did a pretty damn good job of like using its own stuff to kind of create that final level, that final kind of game plan. Anyway, I guess I'm complimenting the writers
as you
of
should,
that show.
because they take these things and they truly, like, it's just you and everybody you worked alongside just did such cool stuff week after week, and the 4 horsemen are evolving to be, as Robbie and I are new viewers, really cool character reveals.
Yeah,
really, really cool.
Yeah, each one had
I love that
moment.
this one's on a black steed, and it's this big black whatever that's called SUV.
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever.
really cool.
Yeah. That's great. Good. You watch that episode. You've only got a few more before this. This
we're
journey
basically
is
done, except for the 1,000 we have left. Yeah.
Well, Ben Edlund, we're going to have you back. I know it. I have a really good
we
feeling
love
we're
having
gonna have
Ben
you
on because Ben does interviews like this. Thank you, Ben, for being here, buddy. We appreciate it very much.
back. Thanks
cool.
so much,
Thank
Ben.
you. Thanks for having me.
See you,
All
buddy.
right, see you later.
Hey there, it's Misha Collins. I'm glad you're listening. This is exciting for me because I, too, am catching up on Supernatural. Stick around. We're going to bring you these important messages.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere because they've got you covered from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I hope to open the conversation about working parents a bit. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier, to find out how they balance being a dad with a successful career. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
Well, that was great. It was great to talk to Ben, as always. He's such a great dude. And
He was in a laughing mood.
yeah, I love it. I love his laugh, too.
I do.
All right, well, next up, we have a real treat. We're going to talk to the actor who played Cupid, Lex Medline. Lex has been in so many shows and commercials. Currently, you can see him in CSI Vegas. And here's our conversation with Lex. All right, well, let's get into this.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Lex. This is great, man.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, this is one of those parks that it's got a cult following.
It does. Well, let's talk right about that.
certainly does.
Walk us through the process here. How did you end up reading for this role in this show?
So there's a little bit of a story there. I'll try to abbreviate it. At the time, I was doing it was an LA cop show called Southland. It was a real gritty
Sure.
show.
Michael Cudlitz.
That was Yep. Cudlitz, Regina King, Mackenzie. I was recurring on it. The first season we did 6. I did 4 of the 6. And then we were getting ready to do the next season. And they had a season 2 premiere party at John Wells' house. He created ER and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm there and I'm thinking, all right, here we go, season 2. I'm just recurring, but they're putting me in a lot of episodes. And I go up to the director of the first episode and we're talking and he goes, well, you're not in the first episode. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I go up to the director of the second episode and we're talking and he goes, you're not in the second episode. And I got just completely annoyed. And I left the party, and this is a younger, petty version of me, but I called my people and I went, submit me for everything. Go out, submit me for everything. I want Southland to call, and you guys go, he can't do it. He's shooting something else. And so lo and behold, this audition comes across my purview. And then the first thing I remember, I think you guys will appreciate this because you're actors, the breakdown. Breakdown, anybody listening, the breakdown is the casting directors send out a blurb to all the agents in town saying what the role is very quickly, like 30 to 40-year-old Latino male who can juggle, whatever the part is, right? The breakdown for Supernatural Cupid was, we are looking for an obese albino. Thank God. We kept it. It's actually, we're cleaning out our garage right now, and I'm looking for it because I kept it in the garage. It's in the garage.
Oh, my God.
So then I go in for it. And I remember the first line on the stage direction was Cupid appears and he's naked. And I go in, I was in sweats and a t-shirt, and I go into the room. There's probably about 7 people in there, director, producers, all that. And I'm like, hey, it says he's naked. Do you guys want me to strip? And there was a pause. And then one of the producers very calmly went, whatever you're comfortable with, Lex, whatever you want to do, that's fine. So I just dropped my pants, took off my shirt, started scratching my belly, and we started to read. And the great thing was, right before that, Southland did call and say, oh, he's in the next 4 episodes after like 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you guys are actors. You understand when you go into an audition and you know you have work coming, it's kind of the most liberating thing ever.
And rare.
Yeah.
And rare, exactly. But it really is. I felt very free. And it's I had just about 3 years before kind of discovered, it's Bryan Cranston talks about it, which is your job as an actor, don't go into the room trying to give them what you think they want. Don't sit there and go, oh, I think they want, and try to give them that. Do your job. Your job is to give them your performance, and then your skill, when the director says, do it again, but change this moment, this moment, this moment, you can do that on a dime. That's the skill level. But otherwise, your job is to do what you think the part should be. So I'm looking at this thing, and it's a 3.5-page scene in the middle of the show. But it covers the gamut. I mean, he's happy and he's excited, and then they say something and he starts crying, and then he says, "He gets really mad." You know, it's like an acting. It's just the gamut of emotions, and that's what kind of drew me to it. I was like, oh. So my take was, it was a little larger than life, not quite a cartoon, but kind of close. But at the time, I was still doing Southland, which was a documentary style I was a gang unit detective, hardcore drama. And I went, okay, what if we make it larger than life, but make it real? I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I was looking at it going, okay, sure. He's going to be a really big character, but for real. When I start crying, man, just really get in, you know what I mean? And every moment, make it real. And so I went into the room, took out my clothes, and I did that. And there was this long pause. And then finally the director went, that was great. That was really great. And I went, all right, put my clothes back on. And I think I was in my driveway when my people called and said, yeah, you booked it. Is your passport in order? Because you got to go to Vancouver. And I was like, all right, let's go do that.
Wow. That's awesome. And then you get up there because that's a high impact part for this episode, but it's one scene. To your point, like everything's covered in this one chunk.
One day of work, right?
Yeah, one day. And I had a little trepidation about having to be naked because I was 40 pounds overweight and very pale and just blotches of hair in the wrong places and not an attractive specimen to look at. But to be completely honest, I had never seen the show and I had never heard of the show. So in my mind, I was like, nobody's watching. It's fine. Go up. I love Vancouver. I love that park in the middle of the city. I love renting a bike and just driving through that park. I'll go do the gig, make the top show guest, and get the hell out of there. And then on the day, they picked me up in a van, and then they picked up one of the other guys,
Misha.
Is that Misha? Excuse me, Misha. They pick up Misha, and him and we start talking, and he's just an incredibly sweet human being. We're talking, and at some point, I brought up being naked, and I said, well, I don't think anybody watches the show. And then he paused and looked at me, and he went, Lex, I make more doing the conventions than I do doing the actual show. And I went, conventions? What are you talking about, conventions? What do you mean? And he goes, yeah, they fly me all over the world, and there is a big following for this show. And of course, I got very quiet, and I was like, but at that point, I'm pot committed. I'm driving to set. I'm not going to bail out. But then I got to the set, and I meet the other two guys, and they were just the most down-to-earth, sweetest guys. I've got a very cutting sense of humor, but turns out they did too.
Yeah.
And we start cutting each other up big time. And I mean, it was probably an 8-hour day, but it didn't feel like it because it.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I imagine when you have the bit where you're hugging all of them, I imagine there was a lot of funny stuff going on there.
Oh yeah, and at one point when I was broke down crying, one of the guys had a broom handle and was putting it in my butt.
That was Jared. I don't no follow-up questions. I know who that was.
Although the funny thing I do remember too was we get ready to do the first take, and again I hadn't seen the show, and I'm talking to the guys like this, like you like we're talking right now, and then they said action. And the guys all went to this voice, and they started talking like that. And I started laughing. And the director goes, cut, and the entire crew, and they're looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, is that how you're going to do it? You're going to do it in that voice? Oh, okay. And we had to start over, and I had to just listen to his voice, whatever the hell that was.
That's hilarious. Now that we are on the other side of the way that the industry has changed and people are hopefully held to account and slightly safer in the professional space. But when you're going into audition for a role that's naked and you disrobe, are we wearing boxers or were you freewheeling it?
At the time I had a thong on.
Nice.
Because I thought it was funny.
Did you really, man?
Yeah. My large, almost like my large frame, my muffin top just kind of flowing over the top of this.
That's amazing. Good for you.
And that's what they had me in on the day. I was in a nude colored thong.
Really?
Yeah, that poor crew had to watch that for 8.5 hours. I don't think anybody ate lunch that day.
No,
because you never really
see a great scene, but there were no winners that day. You know what I mean?
No, everybody lost. But to answer your question, I think in this day and age, I probably would have just kept my clothes on. But that back then, and I didn't mean it. I was genuinely just like, do you guys want me to?
Oh, no. I don't think my point being, I actually think your choice is great and it very lends itself to the role. And it's going to be that anyway, that it wasn't even a comment on that. It was probably you could have gone wang out in those days and now you wouldn't.
Now you absolutely would not.
No, you gotta keep the wang. You gotta go.
Sorry, Robbie. Wang in. Well, dude, thanks so much for being on the show, man. I mean, we're doing episode by episode as we watch the whole show. Even though Robbie and I were involved in the show for years, we didn't ever watch it. So now we're doing a rewatch podcast, and this is just one of those ones where I know your work from years of knowing who you are and thinking you're always good, but this is just such a standout one and done, but awesome role that you had in the show.
Yeah, you want him to come back. You want to see
keep
Cupid again.
I know that Cupid doesn't, but at the time, I wish he had.
About a year after I shot it, I got a call from my people, and I heard oh, hey, they're thinking about bringing Cupid back. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat. And then about 4 days later, they said, yeah, that went away. And then I heard from people who have watched, fans who've watched the show, that I think the second version, it was a woman. Cupid was a woman.
Oh,
and I think I could be wrong, but this is what people have told me. And creatively, I actually kind of respected it, because I'm like, Cupid is the personification of love. That's all Cupid is. And that should be represented by all gender, all ethnic, it should be represented. But selfishly, as an actor, I was like, oh, screw that. Bring me back to Vancouver and give me a check. Come on. This is going to
Right.
So yeah, creatively, I understood what they were doing, but selfishly, I wanted to do it again.
Sure.
But you guys know what it's like. It was just an audition that came across my purview that I looked at. I worked on it for quite a while because it was a tough scene. But it was just another audition.
Yeah.
And then the next you're in Vancouver, the next thing you know, I remember the night after it aired, again, I still didn't know if anybody watched the show. And I got up the next morning and I went on my Facebook, and a bunch of French women were just coming at me, sending me messages going, come to France and drink the wine and we will make love. And I was like, wow, this show is powerful.
And do you still know those women's by first and last name? Did you memorize that group?
They're in my Rolodex, because that's how old I am. I have a Rolodex.
Dude, and 15 years later, you're still talking about the role. That's fantastic.
Well, it was great. You nailed it. You nailed this part, and with the emotions and the love and all that, it really made a big impact. So, congratulations, and thanks for coming and talking.
Thank you, Lex. Thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate chatting with you. It's been great.
Yeah, guys, it's great, and hopefully I'll see you at the convention.
There we go.
Yes, man, that'd be great.
We'll make it happen, all right?
I love it.
Good to see you, buddy.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Hey there, this is Jensen. I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over for a second for some messages, and I gotta take a leak. Thanks for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
2 great interviews.
Yeah, that was really cool to see Lex.
I like the fact that Ben Edlund brought up Lex not knowing we were interviewing Lex. Or did he know we were
I think he did know. But it was great. It was Lex is awesome, and it's interesting. For some reason I did not expect that to be the origin story of him getting this role. I thought maybe it was be an offer or something. It was a good origin story.
It's a really cool origin story, and I just enjoy him as an actor tremendously.
Yeah, and a good dude. All right. Well, let's just get right into mythology.
Okay, then we will with this little ditty. Mythology.
It's such a good song.
Thank you.
All right, famine, or famine, as Richard likes to call it.
Hello, famine. We're waiting on you on the runway. I'm a coming. This isn't a fit.
Bonjour, famine.
It fits when I pin you in it, and then you walk it down. Do not make me fire you. Famine.
Is it Italian or French?
I do not know.
All right. Famine is described in the book of Revelations as riding a black horse and carrying a pair of scales in his hand.
Oh.
He's often depicted as an emaciated figure, which would make sense.
Interesting. Well, on a completely different topic, the term Cupid comes from classic Roman mythology. However, cherub, or in plural form, cherubim, comes from the Old Testament. They are often described as guarding the presence of God. They are often depicted with multiple wings and faces, sometimes with the face of a man, lion, ox, and eagle. Oh, where's Dave? What's he look like? Well, he's got the face of a man, lion, ox, and eagle. Oh, he's over there. Thanks.
I think it probably should have been or eagle.
I like that it's and.
All 4.
I mean, that's a freaky looking mofo.
It is? Really?
Freaky looking mofo, dude.
A bit eagle, a bit ox, a little bit of lion. There are 9 ranks of angels: thrones, dominions, principalities, seraphim, cherubim, powers, sovereignties, archangels, and angels. Just good old angels. 9 ranks.
I feel like none of that makes sense. Like, some of them are words that we've heard: angels, archangels, seraphim, cherubim. But like thrones, that's a chair.
Powers?
The king says that feels weird.
Powers. Phoning it in with Powers.
Was Powers Booth an angel? Like, too many questions.
I just like that one of the ranks of angels is angels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are 4 types of humans: asshole, good person, confusing, and human. All right. Well, let's get into fun facts.
Those
shall
weren't
we?
fun, but these next facts, these are fun, which is why we call them fun facts, fun facts, fun facts, fun facts.
Sam and Dean used the names Cliff and Marley, and I have to say, I wrote this down in my dumb notes because I was like, what's that one? Cliff and Marley. Of course, Jimmy Cliff and Bob Marley.
I didn't get it either until right now. I was like, I'm not picking this one up.
Yeah, two of the biggest reggae music stars.
Hey, it's me, Cliff.
Yeah.
Jimmy Cliff and Bob Marley. Let's get Famine over here to smoke some weed with us.
Exactly.
Because we're famous and we're reggae stars and we get to smoke weed with French models. I'll be right there. That's Famine.
Why don't you pass the doobie to the left-hand side?
Don't bogart the joint, Bob.
Okay, 2009, Jensen Ackles also starred in a movie with the same name as the episode title, My Bloody Valentine.
And what was the name of that movie, Robert?
My Bloody Valentine.
The two actors who ate each other to death in the opening scene were chewing bread or turkey.
We're not sure.
You decide.
One of the two. You know, I thought about them was like, did they just meet each other? You know what I mean? That's a big...
It's a dope day of work, if you ask me.
That's about as hot and heavy as it ever gets on Supernatural.
Yeah, some of the crap I have to do as a guest star, bring on the eating of a co-star. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Change it up a little bit.
I love that.
But no, I got to go and do dumb crap that nobody cares about.
All right, this next fun fact, when this episode was shot, Misha Collin was vegan. So the raw meat the Castiel was devouring in the diner was made specially for him. Instead of cooked meat made to look raw, it was what Misha describes as a disgusting concoction of soy sausage, ketchup, and tomato sauce.
By the way, isn't that how you introduce yourself at certain bars where Spanish is the main language? Soy sausage?
Soy sausage. If this episode was shot today, though, they could use that Impossible meat because that looks like real meat.
Oh, my God.
I guess I'm reading all these fun facts. The climax,
I can't read. Okay, I'll read it. I'm reading it. The climax of the episode takes place in a Biggerton's restaurant. Biggerton's is the restaurant the boys won a year's worth of food at in the episode Bad Day at Black Rock from season 3.
Wow.
And that means that when Sam and Dean were in that restaurant for that closing showdown,
right,
their meal was comped.
Yeah, they didn't have to pay for any of the demon souls.
They did have to tip, though, because the free coupons don't include tip.
Right, that's true. That's true. Wow, that is a fun fact that nobody would remember.
Oh, man, Rob. Woo! You're in the pocket today, buddy.
Well, I don't know. I just don't even know. Well, this has been a fun one. A disgusting episode, a fun podcast, great interviews.
Oh, my God. Some of the best. Thank you for being here, everybody. Bang up episode, 2 great interviews, and just more great show to unravel as we go forward. So
yeah,
here we go.
And we will see you at the next one.
Indeed we will.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, and Misha Collins as Castiel.
Guest stars include James Otis, Lex Medline, Jay Brazeau, Colin Corrigan, Ali Storin, and Andrew Hollowell.
So many guest stars in this episode.
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine was written by Ben Edlund and directed by Mike Roll.
Editing by Nicole Baer. Music by Christopher Leonards.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
This episode originally aired on February 11th, 2010.
3 days before Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Speight Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine. Written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher. And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
What's up, Booty?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now.
I love that turned you on a little bit, the eating people.
Everything turns me on. That's why I asked you about, that was a separate conversation. Never mind.
Don't do that. You of all people do the,
Are you talking to Steve or me?
You.
Well, I know because Gabriel has a whole monologue where I'm like, you two, and I explain everything I just explained to you, only wearing a different costume.
How do you know so much about Gabriel all of a sudden? Oh, right. Here's something fun that I forgot to say in the interview with Lex. There's a question that asked if he knew that the character would not have cloths on.
Wait, you said something about cornhole.
waiting.
What did you say? The harness cornhole? Let me tell you something. If you don't care one iota about the show, but you're feeling bad about yourself and your ability to understand technology, you got to at least join Patreon and come to one of our live streams, because you'll leave feeling like a hero, because no one is worse except for maybe me. So you have Steve, who's just terrible, and I am no help at all, probably equally terrible. And then Rob, who is the entire IT department, which makes no sense because he's 3 times the age of anybody working in IT these days. So we are really just stumbling our way through all of technology. So,
Story Mill Media.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.